5:05, we're opening the Board of Adjustment meeting. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes. Yes. Yep. Has everybody had a chance to read over the meeting, minutes from last meeting?
It was a super long meeting. There's one whole page.
And Kathy, you can make a motion as well if you want to chime in to approve, motion to approve the minutes.
They approve.
Was that Kathy?
Kathy?
Yep, I approve.
Okay, so you're making a motion?
I'm sorry. Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay.
I wasn't here.
One abstention, but motion carries.
Now let's get on.
Okay, our first order of business is BOA 20.03. And if we can have a staff member, please bring us up to date on this one.
Good evening. My name is Samara Wally, and this is BOA 20.03, a front setback variance for 861 Creek Drive. This is our subject site and our zoning map showing that this property is zoned R1. Again, the applicant is requesting a front yard setback variance for 861 Creek Drive. The property is zoned R1, low-density residential. They're requesting a variance to allow a 25-foot front yard setback for a property located in the R1 district. The zoning ordinance requires a 40-foot front yard setback, and it also requires a 20-foot undisturbed buffer along the wetland boundaries. Here you will see a sketch that is showing the existing setbacks for the house, and it will potentially push the house all the way to the side, leaving the 10-foot setback between the adjacent property. And this is the survey showing our wetlands and our wetland buffer. Here is what the applicant is proposing. They're asking for a reduction of the side setback from 30 feet to 25 feet to allow the house to be centered on the lot. The subject property is adjacent to Fly Creek, therefore wetlands are present. The lot is in the vicinity of irregular shaped lots. However, the subject property essentially loses significant square footage due to the location. Relief, if granted, would not cause any deterrent to the public nor impair the intent of the ordinance. However, the property could be developed without relief of the setbacks that were previously granted. Staff recommends denial of the application because the applicant has not proven substantial hardship that wouldn't allow construction. However, if it is the position of the board to approve the application, the following conditions would be required. The northwest side setback should be revised to 15 feet in lieu of the 10 feet as shown on the survey. And then secondly, a subdivision replat would be required, reflecting the revised setbacks prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. And that is all I have, unless you have any questions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And a little, if I can just provide a little bit more background on that. Some things we're challenged with is what is our recommendation. And that gets a little sketchy at times on what we're recommending, but we have to provide one. So although we are, as written, recommending denial, there is a solution out there we don't have heartburn with. And I'm sure you may hear in the public hearing, this is very unique. It meets all the criteria of a hardship that you have. It's such a unique location. But if the board so chooses to grant the 25-foot to move the house over, then we recommend actually changing the side setback so that that actually occurs, and we're not just increasing the overall buildable footprint of the lot. So there's a little technicality there. I don't want it to appear we're just totally against this in our recommendation, but wanted you to have the full information. I don't think it's necessarily our duty to provide variances to fit a particular building footprint. That's a precedent issue, but in this case, I think there's enough uniqueness from the wetlands, the size of the lot, and a benefit to the neighbor to allow this under those conditions.
Okay.
The benefit to the neighbor, what?
And this may be better clarified during the public hearing, but part of the benefit to the neighbors being able to move the house away from the side lot line. So by granting them an extra 5 feet in the front, they can move further away from the side and get away from the neighbor's property a
I
little
see.
bit more.
I got you.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Yeah.
a question.
Uh-huh.
If this is R1, the front setback is 40, not 30.
If you'll recall that in November, this same applicant came in and received a variance
For 30.
feet
Right.
and 25 in the rear. It's a very unusually shaped lot for R1.
I want another question.
Sure.
If you extend it and kept the 30-foot, and you barely encroach over a theoretical line, which is the mean high tide on Fly Creek, I mean, basically you still consider it, keep the 25 foot, and probably be a couple of feet from the rear, on the rear setback, if you project that, if that makes any sense. Because the mean high tide, I mean, that's a fluctuation that happens quite often, particularly in Fly Creek.
Right. And where we're getting that pinch point right there in the middle of the lot
Right.
is one of the design criteria that's making a challenge for designing. So by their request to move east is only allowable by increasing that front setback with this particular building footprint.
Well, with the
And
shape,
another thing, this is a private road. It looks more like an alley than it is a road.
Private road it's actually private property. So whether there's an easement now or will be, it's not up to us for the access point. And if we get into public hearing, that can be clarified.
Yeah, I mean, that's something
But that, and I hate to speak about someone sitting right here, like not in the room, but the neighbor is that the property's moving away from, if we granted this variance, it does on that piece of strip of land.
personally, I like it centered, and I mean, everybody, and particularly if it's on a private road and it's, the adjacent properties they got deeper properties, it looks like, so their house is gonna set back further, certainly, but.
And where that wetland is not developable, so there's a buffer between the properties there, and of course you have Flat Creek to the north, so.
I think it makes sense, but that's just me.
Dick, did you have any comments?
yeah, the only comment I have is, the way this lot is kind of situated on the creek and so on, with the direction of the creek and the wetland right here and everything, I think the man's doing the best he can with what he's got. And, it certainly would help the neighborhood to have a house there. In my estimation, it should look a lot better. So I believe that it's...
Kathy, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me?
We can?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I have heard of variances being given for the buffer requirements to the wetlands. If they applied for a variance to the buffer, would that help them at all?
No, ma'am, they can accomplish what they're looking for without that and still meet the buffer requirements.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, at this time, I'd like the applicant is invited to make a presentation. Is the applicant here?
Is anyone representing Mr. Chapman? He is virtual, so Mr. Chapman, if you're on phone call, if you will dial *6 on your phone. If you're on Teams, there's a microphone button that you can click to unmute yourself if you would like to comment.
Okay. Is he online with us?
He was one of our call-ins.
Okay.
He was in Birmingham, so he did say, did he say someone was going to be?
Samir, did he say something again?
Emily, is there any comments from neighbors?
Oh, we haven't opened the public hearing yet.
Oh,
So maybe let's have the public hearing,
And if he comes in, okay, all right.
we can.
So we'll now change it to the public hearing. We did get one comment from one of the neighbors. It's in our package from Tricia Niemeyer.
and which direction is he?
Tricia Niemeyer is on the property to the west. Let's see.
Lot 14.
Lot
of course.
14. Yeah,
Yeah,
lot 14, right here.
Okay.
And she was in support of it.
Oh, good.
Okay. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak for or against it? Okay. Thank you. If you'll state your name and address for us.
Brian Metcalf, 720 South Mobile Street.
Okay.
I am the property owner directly on the west and the south side of this property, so I'm the property owner most affected no matter which way you go. And I am in support of this application. Obviously, centering the house to the center of the property is more in keeping with the neighborhood. Plus, if you denied it, then Mr. Chapman has stated that he's going to build his house within 10 feet of my line, which is not very far between me and Hunter, really. There's no room at all. And that would be a hardship on me, I think. So I think that from a planning standpoint, centering the house makes sense. I'm in favor of it. It moves it 5 feet closer to me on one side, but maybe 15 or 20 feet away from me on the other. It centers the house, and I think it's good planning. I'm in support of it. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
We'll close the public portion if no one else wants to speak. And has the applicant, have we heard from him?
Mr. Chapman, one more chance if you would like to speak. *6 if you dialed in from a regular phone, we'll unmute you. And if you're in Teams, you can click the mic and unmute yourself.
I'll now open it to the staff and members for any discussion or a motion.
I make a motion
Okay.
to approve BOA 20.03.
Okay. It's
As stated by staff, their recommendation.
okay.
I second.
Okay. All in favor? We'll take a roll call vote.
The
All right,
recommendation.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So we're saying the two provisions, would be approved and not the denial, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I was about to clarify that, Kathy. Thank you for that.
Okay.
All right, I'll take a roll call. Avent,
Yay.
Vera,
Yay.
Yes.
Schneider,
Yay.
Slagle.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Our second order of business is BOA 20.05.
And then Neil, let's just.
I'm sorry.
In case, kind of give everybody a heads up on
Okay.
our quorum situation.
Okay.
And an opportunity, that there's only 4 people and it has to be a unanimous vote. If one person votes negative, it fails. That's just our current situation, so.
So if anybody would like to withdraw, because there's only 4 members that have to be unanimous, they can do so.
They can do so voluntarily before we start the public hearing.
Okay.
Excuse me, would you go over that vote again? Then I didn't hear all the yeas and nays.
It was unanimous.
Okay, so what is the question then?
Oh,
Oh.
just a notification of the upcoming case. So
Oh.
each applicant knows.
Go
the
ahead, I'm
situation.
sorry. I thought somebody said there was one no. No.
No.
All right,
No, ma'am.
all right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Our next order is BOA 20.04.
Okay, this is VOA 20.04, a maximum lot coverage variance, and this is 247 Divot Loop. This is our subject site. And here is our zoning map. The applicant is requesting a maximum lot coverage variance at 247 Divot Loop. The property is zoned R3 PGH, high-density, single-family patio garden home residential. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow the construction of a 2,364 square foot dwelling that will be 43.4% of the total lot coverage in an R3 PGH district. The zoning ordinance requires a maximum of 32.5% site coverage by the principal structure in an R3 PGH. This is our site plan of the proposed dwelling on this lot. The subject property is one of the smallest lots within the entire development. The building site coverage as set forth by the zoning ordinance, with building site coverage as set forth by the zoning ordinance, the applicant would have significant limitations regarding allowable square footage. Relief, if granted, would not cause any deterrent to the public nor impair the intent of the ordinance, and the property is limited in the amount of buildable area set forth by the requirements. And they also still meet the required setbacks. Staff's recommendation is approval of the maximum lot coverage variance to allow a dwelling to occupy 43.4% of a lot in an R3 PGH zoning district. And that is all, unless you have any questions.
All right. Thank you. Is the applicant here? Okay. You'll come up and state your name and address for us, please.
Good evening, Tom Stokes, Truland Homes. You said you need my address as well. Did you?
Please.
753 Big Canoe Run. Okay. So thank you guys for allowing us to come before you today. As the staff has already mentioned, it's a unique lot situation where the lot here as platted is substantially smaller than the typical lot in the community. A big portion of that's caused by the street configuration where it bows into this lot. And what that means is this is a 5,392 square foot lot, which is about 18% smaller than the typical lot in this subdivision. And what that means to us, if we were to go by the 32.5% coverage ratio, we could build a 1,752 square foot under roof home. And in this situation, after you net out your garage square footage and covered porches, we could only build about a 1,200 square foot home on this lot. living area. And that's an issue because for a couple of reasons. One, and the biggest, is that the covenants in the community require at least 1,400 square feet of living area. So because of the coverage, there's a conflict between what the zoning calls for and compared to what the covenants call for in the community on that front. And so, and then if we add in the situation where the typical home we've been building in there is about 2,000 square feet of living area, so about 2,600 square feet under roof. And so we've already tried to find something that would fit this lot and get as close as we could to the coverage requirement, but still be in keeping with the community and what's built in the community, which is one-story garden patio home style homes and on one floor. And so to do that, there's just no way to meet all of the requirements, and that's the hardship we're coming up against. So, but what this variance would do for us, it would allow us to proceed with this home, which is smaller than the typical home in there, but still not so small that it violates the covenants or becomes unmarketable. It prevents us from having to consider a two-story home on this lot, which would be very much out of character for the community. I believe there's only one two-story home in the whole thing, and I would believe that most neighbors would not like to have a big two-story house on this home site. And of course, it would be similar to everything we've been building in there, and that by doing so, that would allow us to stay with what the market desires, which helps keep the values up instead of building something that the market does not desire, and we wind up with something that's hard or difficult to sell. So with that, that's our presentation. I would be glad to answer any questions, and I thank you guys for your consideration.
Thank you. All right. At this time, I'd like to open it to the public portion of the meeting. Is there anybody online or in the audience that would like to speak for or against it?
You do have 2 letters in your packet regarding this case.
Okay.
Neither one are in favor of the request.
Do they say the reason?
Yes, one was confused, I think, by what was the actual request, and they were saying they did not want to see the setbacks reduced. The applicant is not requesting to reduce the setbacks. The second said they objected to the request to exceed the maximum lot coverage due to aesthetically issues and property values.
And Board, I can address that last one. We looked around at what was happening in the community out here, and the majority of the houses in that development, even on larger lots, exceed 40% of lot coverage. I'm not sure how they were approved, but that's the reality we're sitting in. And I think we drove the complaint that came in. We went out there at lunch, and those fit in the same style as what was built 10 years ago. Even though, and there's by changing and making them adhere to this standard, there's only 2 or 3 lots left to build. It's kind of the horses out of the stable, and we're now trying to close the gate. Doesn't quite make sense. So
there's other non-conforming
majority of the house.
Majority of.
There's a little nuance in here that we didn't want to address, but most of the houses built out there, the actual zoning code requires 60% of that 32.5 lot coverage is allowed for the principal building. There's not a house in there that meets that requirement. So this is not a big ask. They are meeting the setbacks. It will fall in line with what's built. So there's a street frontage. You know, it's not as egregious as some of the houses already constructed as far as maximum lot coverage.
Was there any response to the person that sent in the complaint?
Just got that today.
No, I did send a response.
You did?
I did, but they never followed up again.
Okay, what was the response?
that I would provide their comments to you, just
Oh.
for you to have your,
No, the response that I wanted to see was,
we had not done that at the time.
Right. There was another comment that way early on that prompted us to look into this, that someone thought the maximum lot coverage was 60% for this whole development. So when we went looking, that's actually 60% of the, I know it's 32.5%.
well,
so.
as a courtesy to a taxpayer, do you think we could send her a letter saying, these are the circumstances in this neighborhood, and this particular application applies to
We can certainly
meet?
send an email to that.
Yeah.
Emily replied to, please join us or let us know if you have further questions and how we can reply to you. in
Well,
the
I think
meeting.
it's only proper that if a citizen makes a complaint or makes a comment, you know, the way to encourage people to participate in this and the compliance with all of our codes, which are somewhat confusing, it might help to, you know, kind of try and educate some of the people that do make a comment.
Yes,
And I
sir.
think it's only fair, and it just builds good relations between the city and the citizen.
Yes, sir. And where we would prefer to do that is here in this meeting, in this avenue. So that's what we tried, and I don't know if we close the public hearing, we might still get that person.
Yeah.
They might be on the phone, and we can do that education. If not, we'll be happy to send you an email.
I think that would do it. I don't think you need to call them and aggravate
I
them
think they
anymore.
were notified because they're within 300 feet of this property.
Oh, for what?
I'm sorry?
You
For
say
the
that?
variance, they were notified. Any property owners within 300 feet are notified.
Yeah.
of changes.
I know that, but this person responded.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. Do we have any board comments or motions?
I make a motion,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Anil.
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kathy?
No, that's all right. I hit comments. I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead,
You want the motion?
please.
All right, I make a motion to approve the maximum lot coverage variance to allow the dwelling to occupy 43.4% of the lot in the R3 PGH zoning district.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
Okay,
Roll call? Avent?
Yes.
Vera?
yes,
Schneider?
Yes,
Slagle?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Todd.
our last order of business is BOA 20.05, and this is an application for use not provided for.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carla Davis, and I'm here to present the application for a use not provided for. This is case BOA 20.05. The location is 50 South Greenock Road. Here we have the subject site. To the left, you have the zoning map, and to the right, we have the aerial map. The applicant's request. The subject property is located at 50 South Greenock Road and is zoned B4 Business and Professional District. The applicant is requesting to have a massage therapy and day spa. A massage therapy and day spa are not listed in the city's charter permitted uses, nor are they allowed anywhere in the city based on the current zoning ordinance. However, in these situations, the Board of Adjustment has the right to approve this use. Comments. As previously stated, a massage and day spa is not currently identified in the charter permitted uses. However, the general personal service category is the category in which it would most likely fit in. By definition, the general personal service category states a business that provides, including uses such as post office, bank, barbershop, beauty salon, film processing, small appliance repair, tailor, office support, or other similar services. Any personal service that is more specifically described is excluded from this use. As an aside, the applicant is currently operating the same business at another property in Fairhope, Zone B2. The applicant provided a narrative stating that his business, Mountain Massage and Day Spa, has been operating in the city of Fairhope since 2006 and provides services to mostly local clients. The applicant is proposing interior renovations to the unit space to allow 4 treatment rooms with additional upgrading features. The applicant also plans to update the restrooms to be handicap accessible. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval of case BOA 20.05 to allow Mountain Massage and Day Spa to operate at 50 South Greeno Road. Are there any questions?
Well, if the person's already operating a massage parlor, has anybody cited them for a violation? If we have if he hasn't gotten a license or whatever is necessary?
Well, currently, they tried to apply for a license when they moved to this location, and we stopped them, and that's why they're here before this application today.
He did get I don't understand. Did he get it approved or not?
Initially, when they had their previous location, they were operating. And then they tried to move to this 50 South Greeno application, this South 50 Greeno location. And when they applied for the business license, that's when zoning stopped and said that you're not allowed by right to go here.
Who applies the business license? Who approves it?
Not yet. The history of how this was approved at their current location, we don't know. So when they moved, it's changed zoning, and the business license, people that receive those check with us, is this approved? So that's where we're at. So it's looking at this use in this location, not necessarily the historic, doesn't inherently follow. So
They did have a previous business license.
They did.
Yes, but when they moved to, or when they tried to move to this location, that's when we stopped them and said you have to have a special approval for this location and this use.
And in the past.
In this area.
In the past.
So did they get it approved?
That's what they're trying to do right now.
That's who's doing it?
That's what you're requesting.
That's what they're asking.
Oh, okay, I got it. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
I'm sorry, that's what we're here for.
There's too many, activities involved in these things, and then they bring it to us, and, I don't know what the laws apply. Okay, I'm sorry, I was confused.
No, you're fine. Any other questions?
That's it. At this time, we'd like the applicant to make a presentation, please. If you'll state your name and address for us.
Good evening. My name is Haney Jones. I live at 224 Hawthorne Circle. To try to clarify what you're talking about a little bit, we've had a business license to operate the business since 2006. We've been leasing space. This is my wife's business. First was at 209 South Section Street until 3 years ago. Now we're renting space in Pelican Square. We bought this condo unit in this building back in September with the intention of renovating it for use in her business. We did not know that, we were supposed to be stoned a certain way until we applied for our building permit to renovate the space. And that's when we were notified that we need a clarification here before we can issue you the building permit. So we have a business license, but we don't have a building permit to do the renovation, and I suspect we won't be able to get one unless this is approved tonight. So that's why I'm here in hopes that you guys will approve this so my wife can operate her business out of the space.
Well, do we normally approve business licenses?
We're not approving, you're not here to approve a business license. A business license was given in 2007, and the people that were doing those in the past didn't really check with zoning. So business licenses were given regardless of use. So what we're here tonight to do is allow this use in this particular location, and then he can move forward with his building permits.
Is there any objection to people getting massages in this kind of community?
We recommend approval.
So do I.
All right, thank you. We're now closed the, we'll open the public portion of the meeting. Is there anybody online that would like to speak for or against it? Is there anybody in the audience?
We did receive one letter in support from a residential neighbor.
Okay. And that is in our package?
Yes, it is.
That was from Marcus Mosley?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Now we'll open this to the board members. Kathy?
We need to close the public.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll first close the public portion and then open it to the board members. Kathy, are you there?
I am here.
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments?
Nope. We have a lot of massage companies in Fairhope, if Dick is wondering if this is the first one. So this is no problem. All he wants is approval for a change in use, right?
It's just not addressed, the request is not addressed in our zoning code, so.
Yes, I understand. So I'm ready to make a motion unless somebody has more comments.
Okay. Ready for the motion?
I make a motion that we approve BOA 20.05 and allow the Mountain Massage and Day Spa to operate at 50 South Greeno Road.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Okay, go ahead. John's got it.
Okay. John has seconded. We'll take a roll call vote.
Avant,
Yes.
Vera,
Yes.
Yes.
Schneider, Slagle.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now that that's done, I
Okay.
didn't want to influence you, we can add that use to our zoning code, so you don't get a variance. That has to be approved through the, next time we do a zoning amendment, so it goes through planning commission and council. But if you would like to add on your support of that amendment, if you think massage should be allowed in our zoning code, and we
So
can
if
pass
we
that
don't,
on.
if it's not in our zoning court, it would always come to us for approval.
Right.
So it kind of gives it an extra layer of protection.
It does. It does, and you know, I think that's what it's there for. And unfortunately, that we could have went that route, but that would have been a longer process to actually, the applicant could have requested that be put in the zoning code, would have been a much longer process. So this was the quickest path to a solution.
Yeah. Personally, I think it's good that we have some control as a board and for the city also.
That being said, if it's added to the zoning ordinance, that can still be a requirement, is that it would come to the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
And frankly, I mean, that we can't fathom every use out there, so.
So it's
Some of
by,
those
it's
things.
by permission, that's all you ask.
Right. And we do allow massage, I think we have in the past, as incidental use.
Yes.
So
Okay.
someone has a primary business and then on the side, that's allowed, but just this is not explicitly allowed.
Such as, like in a salon, you can also offer massages.
Right, like a nail salon has. Okay.
Right. So this standalone, we'll keep that coming through the board.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there,
Very good.
Thank you.
is there any old or new business?
I have not received any new cases, unless somebody else has, that I don't know about.
Don't we have, seems like we have one.
Do we have a case, Carla?
Carla, do you have one?
Oh, we do have a case, just kidding.
Yes, we do
So-
have one.
So we'll have a
So
case.
we will have a meeting next month, I forgot.
Okay, and what date will that be?
Yeah, one moment. That will be the 15th, June 15th.
June 15th. Okay. Okay, June 15th will be our next meeting. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Anil,
Yes?
I would just like to thank Hunter for all of the work he did to get me online here. It's been great.
It was my pleasure.
It
Good hearing
worked.
you, Kathy.
All right. All
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
right.
All right, motion, second, to adjourn. Kathy made a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
All right.
Aye.